Is crypto and Bitcoin really a God thing? Or is it totally something bad that we should stay away from? So if you're wondering about that too, I'm glad you're here. Because here in this channel of Life in Abundance, we just talk about money, finances, and what God's doing in our lives, making it prosperous and peaceful so that we can live our life in abundance. So, how do we do that? And how is crypto a part of it? Hello, I'm Kathy Boo. Maybe the first question is, what is crypto really, other than this thing that people have been investing in? And how is it that God's going to use it? So, first, I'm going to have this wide view of cryptocurrency. So, cryptocurrency was basically this kind of new technology so that it is a digital asset, something in cyberspace, kind of like the internet. It may reflect or represent something in real life. But like all the pages and all the traffic, it's not anything physical. Cryptocurrency is a currency or money value system that's being exchanged basically through the interwebs, through the digital world. Now, some of these hold value, but all of them are software programs. Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, one of them, but it was the first. It is now the strongest. It is still the biggest. And some might say it's the best because it actually has the most value. More people all around the world are putting money into it. Now, some people may wonder, well, why? Why would people put money into this thing called Bitcoin? This thing that you'll never be able to get in the physical world. And what I normally say about that is if you've ever had Starbucks points or airline miles, you'll never see a Starbucks point. You'll never really see an airline mile, but they represent something, they represent some sort of value to us. Getting free coffee, getting a free trip. There's some sort of value there in the real world. Well, you could do the same thing with Bitcoin, right? If you had bought Bitcoin a lot lower than it is now, and then it grows, you can exchange it back for something in the real world. There are now millions of people all over the world exchanging value and their currencies for Bitcoin or Bitcoin for other cryptocurrencies and such like that. So it has a value now. So now some people might be wondering several things. One, how does it have to do with God? And two, what is happening that is causing more people to try to get into Bitcoin? Because that's why Bitcoin is growing, right? So once we understand that, it seems like it would be a logical conclusion if we know why other people are getting in and it makes sense to us, then would it be arguable for us to also get in? And what does that have to do with God? So I'm going to explain what I think the growth case for Bitcoin is. And you might have already heard it. And then I'm going to tie it to God because that's kind of how it ended up working in my life. And the reasons why I would see that God might have picked Bitcoin. I'm not saying that Bitcoin will forever be like a chosen thing, a chosen value system. But I do understand why it's happening. Well, at least I think I understand why it's happening now. So let me give you my case. So first, why is Bitcoin growing, or why did Bitcoin grow, and why is it continuing to grow? Why did it grow? Initially, it started in 2009. The story is whoever created Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, that is a pseudonym. So there isn't a real person named Satoshi Nakamoto. It's the name that he called himself, or maybe it was a group of people. They were computer people who were interested in this problem or this idea about how do you transfer value safely? How do you maintain value? How do you work, build some amount of wealth and be able to hold it long term so that it doesn't deteriorate with government inflation? So this is the problem. It's a big problem. How do people maintain their wealth over time. Wow, if they could solve that problem, that'd be awesome. And so that's why it kind of started catching fire, not only that way, but a payment system. You can transfer your value from one wallet to another. So if you were a migrant worker, I know we may or may not have as many of those in the Western countries, but in third world countries, it happens all the time. One person leaves their family, goes to maybe another country to work in order to find income and then send it back home in order to feed their family. So the fewer fees you pay, the more your family gets to eat. Yeah, it's let me not pay Western Union 7% and let me pay this Bitcoin thing 0.5%, and my family will eat more. So that was the use case back then. Now Bitcoin is helping people transfer money without conversion fees, without an extra transfer fee, and you can get it from yourself to your family member in half an hour. So that's why it's been growing. It grew from less than a penny to more than $100,000 in 15 years. It started kind of growing even more than people expected by just simple use case. I want to transfer money in a cheap, fast, and secure way. It's because Bitcoin was holding value more because it was growing. More and more people were using it. But also, we started realizing that any money we have outside of Bitcoin, when there's very little inflation, $1 this year equals $1 next year. No need for Bitcoin. But after the last 5 years, when the price of eggs almost doubles, when we're paying more for gas and college and cars, energy, paying a lot more. Why is the price of everything going up when most of our wages have not kept up with that? Right? And you probably know inflation. Did you know that Bitcoin doesn't have inflation or actually the amount of inflation is so small, you will not be able to see it. But the inflation almost everywhere else in the world is a lot more. So $1 now will only be worth maybe 80 cents by the time you use it. And so if you can start saving your money in Bitcoin and hold it over time, Bitcoin is saving your time and value. Because if you keep it in dollars and money, or with inflation, you need more money to buy the same thing. So the value of what you saved goes down. But if you save it in Bitcoin, your money grows faster over time in Bitcoin. It maintains the value of your effort over time. And so that's where I'm going to bring it back to God. In olden times, people didn't always use currency. Currency is a modern day thing, at least paper currencies. Way back when, people were using gold as the money standard. And what people said about gold is these precious metals, they were sound money. When you had sound money, you could maintain your value. And people could trust it. If you didn't need to spend a whole gold coin, you could cut it in half, and the person who gets half still knew that that was valuable. And so actually, Bitcoin is a lot like that sound money. Gold is scarce. You just can't have as much gold as you want to. There's effort that goes into going to find more gold and dig it out of the ground. It takes time, it takes effort. So there's a limited amount of gold throughout the world. Same with Bitcoin, but not same with dollars or currency. They can print as much of that as they want to. So there's no limit of printed money. That's why it's not scarce. And that's why there's more inflation there. But Bitcoin, like gold, Bitcoin's often called digital gold, it's scarce. It's limited. If you want to know how much, 21 million will be the top of whatever exists, and 5%, maybe less, 5% of the world has Bitcoin. So it will become more and more scarce as more and more people try to get Bitcoin. And so that might be one aspect of how God uses Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a scarce, limited asset where, just like gold, scarce, limited asset, a little bit better than gold, well, a lot better than gold. It's Bitcoin much easily portable, transferable, and divisible than gold, right? If you wanted $1 billion of gold transferred from one country to another, it would cost money and effort and time. You can send $1 billion of Bitcoin in 30 minutes without much effort, keystrokes. So Bitcoin may end up being this next evolution of money. The reason why I think that God may be using the Bitcoin is currently our money system is based on governments. They print it, they control it, they can confiscate it, they can take it away from you. If you don't believe me, ask anyone who has dealt with the IRS and talk to people who've had their bank accounts closed. That happens. But if you had your value in gold, silver, Bitcoin, maybe you'd be able to keep it. Maybe you would be able to have more sovereignty over your own finances. And so maybe that's an aspect of what God uses Bitcoin. Another one within the big cryptocurrency space, okay, is Bitcoin being the first, the biggest, the most trusted, the most well-known, and arguably the best because of how much value is in it. Bitcoin is the backbone of the cryptocurrency space. Okay, so let me say it this way. Bitcoin specifically is not related to other cryptos other than the fact that they may be all called cryptos and they're based on a similar technology. Bitcoin, though, is the biggest value system within cryptocurrency. And so what I've been experiencing is God sent my attention to Bitcoin. I had to learn it and understand it and start investing. I didn't get a voice from heaven. It was just a curiosity. The Bitcoin thing keeps popping up. Let me see what it's about. I had to take the time. And I didn't learn it all in one scoop. I'm still learning, like a baby step at a time. 10-minute video, articles, understanding more and more as I go. But now I'm realizing that as Bitcoin's growing in value, also other cryptocurrencies in the space are growing too. It's becoming a whole system. It's almost like when we started getting cars, the opportunity or the possibility now there are cars, now there are buses and airplanes, rocket ships even. So now you have what's being built out is this whole other system of transportation. Now it's being built out because of Bitcoin, this whole other system, this entire system of cryptocurrency, and they all do sell slightly different things. There are some cryptocurrencies, some tokens that have a utility, some called oracles, like Chainlink. They bring real world data from the outside into the cryptocurrency space. For example, sports teams play because of the scores of the games, their merchandise may get more popular. And so maybe the price of their merchandise should go up. And we need real world data to be pulled into the cryptocurrency space, calculations to be done, and then it affects the price of or numbers of somewhere else. Okay, that's an example. Other cryptocurrencies create things like smart contracts. A lot of the current cryptocurrency development has been in what they call real world assets, RWA, so that they basically can connect the price of something in the real world with something in the cryptocurrency space. It's going to be like finance stuff, decentralized finance. So you can see how a lot of cryptocurrency could provide huge services currently and in the future. So now it's this growing technology. Would God use that? Would God use a way to have sound money for people to be able to save without fearing inflation? Would God be a part of new developments and growing technology? So I think he would. I don't think God's a caveman and is surprised about cryptocurrency. I think he'll use it for his purposes. The enemy might use it for his, but it's the people, the intent of the people who have it. I think that's going to be the biggest difference of whether or not it promotes good. And as someone who believes that God is going to use Bitcoin and cryptos as part of the wealth transfer, that's another reason why I'm as deep into the space that I am. When I had focused on stocks before I got even into Bitcoin and such like that, I could see stocks grow. The people who ended up doing really, really well with stocks and such really had to hold it for like 20, 30 years. Rarely did it just boom in a short amount of time. And if they weren't already the CEO or really deep into the company, it was really hard for a regular person to be able to know what's going to happen to a company and then know to get in early. However, with cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, now that we're seeing what we're seeing, you don't have to be a CEO. You don't have to be an insider. Any regular investor, average investor, can decide to buy Bitcoin, can decide to buy some of this crypto. Now, caveat, I don't think all cryptos are going to go up. A lot of them are not. Most of them are not. So be really careful which ones you buy. Study them first. Know what you're buying. DYOR, do your own research so that you know what you buy. But anybody who wants to can get into Bitcoin, can get into Chain, can get into Ethereum, Cardano, any of these other cryptos. So what I'm believing is going to happen is, as just like God drew me into Bitcoin, now I understand that. From understanding Bitcoin, I understand a lot of the other cryptos too. Not everything. I'm not a tech person. I'm not a finance person. But understanding Bitcoin made it really easy to understand a lot of the other ones. And having a basis in Bitcoin, as Bitcoin grew, I could take some of the Bitcoin and use a little bit to buy into some of the other coins that I thought might grow. So anyway, that's why I do it. Take a little bit off, can put it into to other altcoins. Some of the volatility can be tricky to handle, and so that's why I teach people in a course on how to deal with that. Know that that's going to be part of the path if you choose cryptocurrency. It's not a steady ride. However, like when I was talking about the stocks, you have to be a CEO or to get in early and then see the huge rise. In cryptocurrency, it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen where cryptos can 10x in less than a year. And it was definitely something that someone that was knowledgeable enough in the crypto space could have easily been a part of that. That's why I think that maybe God's going to use crypto in part of the wealth transfer. Some of them can grow fast. God can lead us into where he wants us to be, what positions he wants us to be in. It's a new technology. It's not an evil. It's a technology. It's a tool. Money is a tool. So when you think about it that way, yeah, that's maybe how I think God is using Bitcoin. Another reasons why, for me, Bitcoin is the strongest coin because of the values that Bitcoin seems to reflect. What do I mean by that? Bitcoin represents freedom, freedom from another entity, maybe a government, having control of your wealth, being able to dilute it when they want to. And if they really wanted to, they could confiscate it. With Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is a decentralized system, they don't have control over it. So now Bitcoin represents freedom. Bitcoin also represents opportunity, something else that really hits home in my heart. Because Bitcoin is not for the elite. Bitcoin was started grassroots, a tech guy talking to other tech guys, not the elite. And then they opened it up. It's an open source protocol where anyone can start being a part. You don't need to have $1 million to be part of the Bitcoin club. No, you only need $1. You could get in with $1. I highly recommend more than $5 at a time if you can swing that, just so that you're not paying a lot of the initial fee to get in. So anyone with $5 can start investing in Bitcoin, and then it's yours. You're responsible for it. So you have freedom, opportunity, and it's not as easy to say, but like this unbiasedness. What do I mean by that? Maybe I can say it like more like this: equality for people. Imagine maybe you are a woman in a country where the government or the religion is so strong that you need permission from somebody else to make some of your decisions, especially financial. In the Western world, you don't have to deal with that, but there are countries where that still occurs, in which case it may feel like you're a second-class citizen. You don't have as many rights. You have more limitations. You don't have as many opportunities because you don't have the freedom, right? But with Bitcoin, you don't need an ID. You don't have to be of the right sex. You don't have to be of the right race. You don't have to be of the right religion. What you need is internet connection and a device. And you can get Bitcoin, and you suddenly have a financial opportunity, a way to get value. And that story has stuck with me for as long as I've been in Bitcoin, and why I've been a proponent of everybody should understand Bitcoin and why it's here and what it really can do. It stands for freedom, opportunity, and a way that money can be more fair amongst people. So if you believe in those sorts of principles, maybe you should look into Bitcoin. And because of those principles, that's another reason why I don't think God's against Bitcoin. As a matter of fact, that's why I think God could use Bitcoin, because of some of those principles. So anyway, tell me what you think. Hopefully this brought up some thoughts. Tell me in the chat what you think about why God can use Bitcoin. And I'll see you in the next video.